Hey there, K-6 Ministry Serves. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I'm Josh. I'm our K-6 team coordinator here at Crossroads Church, and I want to talk through our 7 policies of Plan to Protect. These policies are in place to ensure the safety of not only our students and our kids, but also you as our serves. The reason we have these policies, actually, if you've seen our video on our guiding principles, falls under our desire to welcome wide, and that we always plan to protect so that families feel safe dropping off their kids, so that kids feel safe in the room, so that we can have incredible ministry conversations with them. So thanks for taking the time as we go over these 7 values. Now, with our Plan to Protect, the first value that we have is our ratios. We want to ensure there's a strong ratio of leaders to kids in a classroom at all times for their safety, for your accountability, but also so that good ministry can happen. Plan to Protect requires us to have 1 leader for every 8 kids, but we've actually found that 1 leader to 5 kids is the ideal ratio not only for good interaction, but for incredible relational ministry. So we are guaranteeing you that every time you're in a classroom, you will have 1 leader to 5 or 6 kids. That means maybe if you're partnered up with a serve who's a junior serve or a volunteer that's first time, you might have a few more kids, but we will always ensure that 1 to 5 ratio. Our second principle Plan to Protect is open door policy. We never want you alone in a room of kids with a door closed. Just to make sure that everything's seen, there's no questions of what's going on. We always want to keep that door open if you're the only one in the room. The reason for that being is that team leads, directors, staff members like myself will be in our hallway to be your second person in the room if your door is open. If you have a second person or a second volunteer with you, you can close that door if you want to take some quiet space or do something more intentional. Our doors also have windows, but we prefer for you not to close them. Third, we need to talk about our washrooms, because let's be real, kids like to go to the washroom and don't always go before they come here, so it's a real thing. If you are leading a group of kindergarten to grade 1 students, we ask that one of your certified serves takes them from their classroom and guides them to our washroom. This can't be a junior serve, it can't be a first-time serve, it can't be a parent guest, it has to be a certified serve. If your kid is in grade 2 to 4, feel free to send them down to the washroom on their own, but let your team lead, director, staff member in the hallway know so that we can keep eyes on that kid to make sure they don't get lost. And if we're in theater time, what we encourage you to do is 2 to 4s, we feel they're more responsible, they know their bodies better. If they want to go to the washroom, they can hold it for 10 more minutes. Unless it's like an extreme emergency where like something's going to happen that's going to be an accident. If they're in kindergarten or grade 1, they don't know their bodies as well, let them go. That's okay. We want to make sure that kids aren't feeling uncomfortable and gross here. So we want to make sure that washrooms are allowed. Fourth, and this is kind of maybe not as fun of one, we need to talk about discipline. We want our kids here to learn that the way they act, the things they do impact their lives. But what we are not about is putting on harsh consequences. We're not here to hurt kids, to put them down. We actually encourage you that instead of using negative feedback to discipline a kid, use positive feedback. Instead of telling a kid, hey, stop doing that, let's try something more in the lines of, hey, could you try doing this instead? Or we'd love it if you try to do this more. And that positive behavior encouragement feedback is what we find works actually really well when it comes to disciplining our children. We do recognize you'll have kids that are going to act out, be disruptive. So we kind of have a few couple tries grace period with them. If you ask them to do something once, twice, and 3 times and they're still not listening, feel free to send them out in the hallway to talk to myself or a team lead, and we'll have a discussion with them around that. And if they're still not willing to listen and obey, we will call parents to take them out of the program. And obviously, you're not just going to be disciplining your kids in the classroom. There's going to be times they act up in the theater too. So normally, if you're in your classroom, you can talk to them, stop what you're doing and move over to them. In the theater, it's a large group time, so we can't really do that. So what we ask is you try to be as quiet as possible and use nonverbal cues or a little bit of touch to get a kid's attention and try to talk them through whatever issue you're having. Again, if they're being really disruptive, they can be taken out by a team lead or myself. But that'd be the preference, is instead of telling your kid to get their act together out loud, is try to be verbal and just be like, a little hush or like a little tap and be like, hey, we gotta stay seated. Like something like that is gonna be super helpful compared to calling out a kid like you might in your classroom. So if we can make that shift while we're in theater with discipline, that's super helpful for the whole group experience. Now, a few of our key things that we're gonna be hard on is we want our kids to be showing godly character to each other, so being kind and respectful, using respectful language, and listening to a leader. So if those three things aren't happening, that is a major discipline concern. And we need to make note of that. Fifth, we want to talk about these lovely little things, lanyards. Once you have your criminal record check into Marcia, we ask that all volunteers get a photo into us, or I'll take one of you, that we wear on a lanyard that you'll have around your neck the whole time you're serving, so that parents and students know you are a certified volunteer with us and that they can trust you and know who you are and that we have actually already vetted you, which is awesome for our families. Our sixth value is talking to team leads. If you have a kid who reveals something really hard about home life, so let's say that there's an abusive situation going on. Let's say there is just some kind of neglect going on. We need you to tell that to a team lead. Yes, it is your government responsibility to report that as the child has opened that up to you, but we also want you to talk to the team lead or director or staff about that so that we can help address that situation with you. So if that happens, if something very vulnerable is shared with you, please let us know immediately so we can act on it immediately. In the same way, if something really cool happens, like a kid gives their life to Christ, kid wants to be baptized, a kid has a really big prayer request or prayer story, tell us as team leads. We want to celebrate that. We want to share that. We want to be excited about that with them. So please be communicative with us. And finally, appropriate touch. We live in a world where, a lot of hard and sad stuff happens, unfortunately. And so in that, we want to make sure we're staying above the standard in how we treat our kids. So be age and stage appropriate. I'll give you an example. This last Sunday, I was serving in a classroom, and I had a kindergarten boy whose first time here at Crossroads was this Sunday. So when we were moving from the classroom to our theater time, he didn't know where to go, he was a little nervous, so he grabbed my hand. That's totally fine. If a kindergarten kid wants to grab your hand to walk with you, that's great. If you want to give them a high five when they come in, that's great. But things like really long hugs, carrying a kid on your back, wrestling them to the ground, touching anywhere that'd be covered by a bathing suit, we really want to discourage that because that can be just a hairy zone and something we don't want to mess around with. So just be above and beyond standards when it comes to touching and interacting with our kids. And a big thing in theater time that you'll notice is a lot of our kindergarten grade 1 kids, when we're sitting on the floor, are going to want to sit on your lap because that's what they do with mom and dad or an older sibling. Even if they're your own kid, we ask that while they're here at Sunday school, that kids don't sit on leaders' laps. It's just not good looking. It's a huge realm where we could have a lot of accusations, and we just want to avoid that completely. It might seem natural, but let's stay away from it. Thanks for taking the time to watch this. Listen, I hope you take these to heart. Watch this over a second time if you have to get everything. And just remember, if you ever have a question, ask us. I'm here, a leader is here who knows this and has been doing this for years, and we'd love to make sure that you know everything so that our kids feel safe, our parents feel safe, and that you feel you know how to interact with our kids safely as we plan to protect.